What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with all the lies of the freaking corporate press because they're on top of everything, folks, and they are outright lying constantly. It's just, what do you believe these days? We don't know. You buy into the corporate press narrative, and sometimes it slaps you in the face, right? Sometimes we find out, hey, they were just outright lying about stuff.
This is being called a security failure at the highest level. So tell our viewers how this happened.
Well, Wolf, that is the biggest question here. And I can tell you, I've spoken with multiple members of law enforcement who look at the proximity of that building to the former president and are absolutely astounded, shocked. I mean, the list of adjectives goes on and on, that something like this could happen. What we know, Wolf, is that according to the Secret Service, that building was outside of the perimeter. But the question is, what was supposed to happen at the building? Was someone supposed to be posted there? Was there a sweep? When did the sweep happen? Ultimately, how did this shooter get up onto the roof? And the other major question here, Wolf, is that in the planning, how did the Secret Service determine the relevance of that building in this larger operational plan? Did they look at that building as a vulnerability? Did they just simply say it's outside the perimeter? This perimeter is wide enough and move on? These are the questions that need to be answered by the Secret Service, and certainly the questions that the Secret Service is asking themselves at this very moment. What we know, Wolf, is that what the Secret Service does at events like this, and certainly this happened at the rally, is that they rely on local law enforcement to fill in gaps. That happens all the time. It is extremely routine for the Secret Service. And in this case, for example, they had 2 Secret Service counter sniper teams available on the ground with the former president, as well as 2 local counter sniper teams. But again, there are so many questions, Wolf, about was somebody supposed to be posted there, and why wasn't a member of law enforcement posted on the roof?
Yes, most definitely. There are a lot of questions. I'm like, there are so many questions, Wolf. Yeah, but there's a lot of answers as well. This was ultimately negligence on a catastrophic, apocalyptic scale, if you will. This was negligence due to the simple fact that there was nobody on top of that building. Like, are you serious? Really? I mean, that vantage point that the shooter had was perfect. It was almost like it was set up. Now, I'm not some grand conspiracy theorist or anything like that. Until we get more evidence, I'm going to buy into this was just negligence. Until we get any more evidence. But we can theorize, if you will. Now, I just kind of wonder, though, how many steps were taken to get to the point that Secret Service was like, yeah, we're going to leave that building alone. We're not even going to bother securing that building. Apparently, it was outside of the security perimeter, right? But there was cops all over the dang place. What I don't get is the 2 minutes. How come? All right, we see that video of that sniper looking down the scope, right? We see that video. We see the guy pop his head up, and we can tell he's looking right at this guy. We know that, right? There's reports of this, that it's been reported to the corporate press. So we're pretty sure that's what was going on. That guy saw the guy on the gun, right? But, like some of my coworkers were like, well, how come they didn't just cap him? And I'm like, well, thinking about it from that perspective, they don't know that the guy actually had a gun. How do they know that that's what he had? Sure, they had a scope and they could see, but it could be a guy with a freaking camera. Maybe their scope wasn't that good. I really don't know. But there are opportunities for such a situation to arise, if you will. Now, do I buy into that? No, I'm sorry. If that guy with a scope looking at that guy on the roof, he could see he had a gun. Why didn't he open fire? Right? We know they have authorization. We know that he could have capped him before that. There's just so many questions that we're probably never going to get answers to be honest with you. But good thing, President Biden comes out and opens an investigation, and that's what our story's about. But I want to see, I honestly could care less about President Biden's independent investigation into this. I really want to see a congressional investigation. I would like to see Congress open up an independent investigation into this so we can really find out what took place, what steps were taken. And, another question I have for Joe Biden, how come Kimberly Cheadle isn't fired yet? right? We have that question for Joe Biden for a lot of people. How come these people aren't fired? How come heads are not rolling in your cabinet, Joe Biden? But I saw a news article earlier, not to change gears or anything, but switching gears. President Biden is now allowing for Secret Service protection for RFK Jr., right? And the unmitigated gall to do that, when he denied RFK Jr.'s Secret Service protection twice. And now that Trump has been shot at, he's going to give him Secret Service protection? Come on, dude. Yeah, Joe Biden, worst president of my lifetime. But let's go ahead and get into the news article right quick, because these people are insane, y'all. Secret Service director says agency will participate in assassination attempt investigation amid questions over procedures. Yeah, you damn right. In our first public statement since the assassination attempt on President Donald Trump, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle on Monday said the agency will participate fully in an independent review ordered by President Joe Biden, and also said the agency will work with Congress on any oversight action. Now, there's going to be some tough questions for this lady once she gets up in front of Congress, and I can't wait to see this. There's going to be a lot of grilling going on. Like, seriously. If we can take what Dan Bongino said on its face.
If you go back and listen to episode 2079, President Trump does not have that. He doesn't have that now. I get it. There are some legalities involved. But President Trump is a former president running for re-election. You essentially have two incumbents running. Folks, he does not have a full presidential package right now. It is putting the man in danger. His threat level is apocalyptic and catastrophic. It is time right now for Kim Cheadle, the Secret Service director, to get her head out of her ass and do the right thing. I could tell you stories for days about her putting politics ahead of presidential protection. I am not being overly emotional because I've said it before. The Secret Service director is utterly unqualified right now to be doing what she's doing. It is time for her first to get this thing solved. It's an emergency situation right now, and find out what happened. But she should step down immediately. Some of the things she has told people on that detail about security arrangements, clearly making political statements, she is completely unqualified. It is time for President Trump to have a full presidential package.
You know, if this lady really is making decisions based upon political persuasion, if you will, then why in the hell is she in charge of the freaking Secret Service at all? Right? Like, why are any of these people in charge of any federal agency if they're going to be political in any kind of instance, right? In any kind of situation for any reason, right? We don't need political actors on top of our agencies, for crying out loud. Get these people out of there. That's all I've got to say about that. But there are lots of questions. How come he doesn't have a full presidential package like Bongino was saying? He should. He's not only a former president, but he is also the front runner for the 2024 presidential election. He's probably going to be the next president. I already saw an article earlier. I didn't read it. I just read the headline. So, you know, slap myself in the face for doing it. I know I gripe about doing that all the time, but I saw where some Democrats are coming out saying they are just now resigned to defeat at the ballot box. Outright, yeah. This boosted Trump so badly. Like, the epicness of Trump coming out, getting back up after, I know I talked about this and I said all this yesterday, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I can't help it. Trump standing back up. I'll throw the video up right there. And throwing his fist in the air. Man, that is just such a Chad move, if you will. But to have the wherewithal to stand up. Now, I know what he was doing, right? He was pissed. He's like, frick, that didn't freaking kill me. What the hell is going on? I'm fine. He let everybody know. The fight is still on, folks. And we're not talking about physical violence. No, of course not. Trump never condones physical violence. All right. And that's why I can't stand the corporate press and their narrative, constantly talking about January 6th and constantly talking about, oh, Trump's Hitler and all this other blah, blah, blah. Like, shut your freaking mouth, right? Like, that is part of the reason that we got to where we're at now. It's because of some of this BS rhetoric that you guys, he's an existential threat. Trump. That's nothing but what these people saying. He's an existential threat. Well, do you really think if you keep spitting rhetoric like existential threat, in other words, that we're not going to have a country anymore if Donald Trump gets reelected type of crap, do you really think somebody's not going to act upon that? MSNBC, calling out you specifically, right? And it's been utter nonsense to go online, look at leftist Twitter. I'm going to still call it Twitter. I'm tired of calling it X. But to go to leftist Twitter and just see the insanity going on with these people is outright nuts, you guys. It's outright nuts. But let's get into the story. Cheadle, who was appointed by Biden in 2022, expressed confidence in the agency's security plan for this week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee and said changes have been made to Trump's security detail since Saturday. I would hope so. The Secret Service is tasked with tremendous responsibility of protecting the current and former leaders of our democracy. It's not our democracy. It's our republic, lady. She should be fired for that just right off top. See, I don't understand these people. What do you mean, our democracy? When you say that, when these people say our democracy, we know for a fact, and they've said this outright, they don't mean, going to a ballot box and voting for your candidate. That's not what they mean by democracy. They mean them staying in power, and by any means necessary. If it means, what happened on Saturday, then by God, that's what they'll do. And they will spew out this rhetoric until some nut job acts upon that rhetoric. And that's exactly what happened. These people ain't sorry. Go on leftist Twitter and see, right? The Democrats are insane. It is a responsibility that I take incredibly seriously, and I am committed to fulfilling that mission. Questions have swirled about the agency's preparations in the aftermath of Saturday's shooting, which wounded the former president, killed an attendee, and left 2 people critically injured. The shooter, identified by authorities as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, also killed by Secret Service agents at the scene. And like I said, it is confirmed now that shot that was 8 seconds after the round of 7 shots or something like that, that 8th shot, that was Secret Service putting a cap into Thomas Crooks. Do you guys feel kind of like me that you get sick and tired of the generic statements coming from these politicians? Kind of like I am fully committed to my mission to fulfill successfully. It's like, shut your mouth, okay? Obviously you're not. Otherwise, y'all would have taken more precautions. Y'all would have taken a lot more precautions. That building would have been secured. President Trump would have never been shot at, for crying out loud. Like, these security measures that go on around any time a former president, anytime you're dealing with Secret Service. Now, I haven't dealt with the Secret Service personally, but it's an insane amount of security you have to go through. And it just seems like these days with the federal government that you can make these apocalyptic mistakes, right? This just catastrophic failure of common sense, for crying out loud, to not have somebody stationed on that building and the building next to it, right? Just because you have some counter snipers on the building behind you doesn't mean that's going to secure the area, right? Obviously, somebody can climb on the roof, right? And that whole reporting around the cop going up there and the guy turning around and pointing his gun at the cop. How come more action wasn't taken? How come that cop feared for his life? How come he didn't shoot that? How come he didn't even still raise his gun above, right? And pop, 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 scare the shit out of this dude or something. Right? There's 2 full minutes of people yelling and screaming. There's a guy with a gun on the roof. And nobody did anything. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That is beyond a catastrophic failure of security. That's well beyond that. You're dipping off into conspiracy now, that this was intentional. That's what you're getting into. And, you know, I'm not surprised when people starting to think that it was done on purpose. Now, cool your jets and calm down, because it can't be confirmed. But we have our suspicions. We have lots of questions, if you will. I know I do. Among the concerns and questions is how a sniper was able to obtain rooftop access roughly 150 meters from the former president's position at the podium at an outdoor rally. Well, you know, I've been saying this. Yes, as a matter of fact. Notably, the shooter's location was outside the security perimeter. Doesn't matter. Raising concerns about both the size of the perimeter and efforts to sweep and secure the American Glass research building, and how the shooter was able to obtain rooftop access. What do you mean, how? There was obviously a ladder on the outside of the building. A lot of these. That's what's something else I've seen the corporate press constantly talking about. We don't know how he was able to gain access to the rooftop. There's a ladder, you idiots. There's loads of buildings. A lot of buildings in this country have outdoor ladders that aren't always secured, that aren't always locked up, that you can just walk up because it's convenient, right? And that's my question, is not how he got access to the building. Why wasn't that locked up? Why wasn't there a guard stationed there? You know, it goes beyond just how did he get up there. It goes well beyond that. How did somebody allow him to get up there? How come that security perimeter did not encompass that building when that was an obvious point of contention? There was an obvious avenue for a successful shot, right? As we know now. It's just, there's so many questions that we need answered. And, you know, I could sit here and scream and yell to the high heavens all freaking day long. Which, by the way, if y'all are still watching, check out my next video. It's great news, folks. A spokeswoman for the United States Secret Service told CNN the agency did not sweep the building where crooks shot at Trump, but instead leaned on local law enforcement to conduct security at that location. There's your problem, folks. There's your problem right there. Secret Service should have known better. They should have known better than to allow local law enforcement to get involved with securing the perimeter. Right? I can see them having security, you know, local cops or whatever, being there, securing certain areas, but Secret Service should have scanned all that whole vicinity and noticed that, hey, there's rooftop access right here. Right? And I know for a fact that Secret Service goes and sweeps these areas. You know for a fact Secret Service went and swept that building. Had to have noticed that. Had to have noticed it. And should have said something if they didn't. Should have said, we need a guard posted right here, or somebody to walk the perimeter of this building constantly, or something. I want to know. My question is, how come there was not a counter sniper on that specific building? Why have two snipers pointing their guns in the same direction on one building? Why not have these guys spread out further? Questions we need answers to. Republican and Democratic lawmakers are already demanding answers from the agency on the security posture in hearings on the incident. House Speaker Mike Johnson vowed a full investigation of the shooting, featuring testimony from the USSS, DHS, and the FBI, and two Republicans on the Senate Homeland Security Committee have also called for an investigation. Rep. Jeff Duncan, a South Carolina Republican, on Sunday called for an independent commission in the style of the one that investigated the assassination of President John F. Kennedy to give nonpartisan examination into how and why the aspects of this security posture. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, appearing on CNN Monday morning, acknowledged that Saturday's incident amounted to a security failure. Yeah, it was beyond a failure. That was malfeasance, if you will. We are going to analyze through an independent review how that occurred, why it occurred, and make recommendations and findings to make sure it doesn't happen again, he said. I can tell you how to make sure it doesn't happen again. Make sure those people do their damn jobs. That was an obvious oversight, right? Like, it's beyond an oversight, right? That we're looking at this like as if they just overlooked that building. It's almost impossible to say they just overlooked the fact that somebody could have crawled up that building with a gun, got on top of there, and popped off some shots. None of this makes any sense. And the way everything played out makes it look like it's done on purpose. And now you've got all these conspiracies out there and people just conspiracizing. I know I made that word up. We need to keep a level head. We need to get behind Donald Trump and pray for his safety, because I don't think this is the last time this is going to happen. I really don't. I don't think these people are just going to stop here. I think his support is growing, and people can see the corporate press narrative is falling apart. The Democrats are insane. And I think I'm done with this video. But in all seriousness, y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. What do y'all think is going to come from this investigation? Are we going to get some heads rolling? Are people going to get fired? You know, I'm not expecting too much from the Biden administration, but y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.